Hello and welcome to Supernatural Files. I'm standing by a beautiful old well. There are so many superstitions about wells. Good wishing wells, there's woe wells, woe waters, there's lots of things to do with hands. On the first rainfall in July, collect a bowl of water. Put your hands into it and wash your hands, and your sore hands and even freckles will disappear. The first snow, collect the snow, let it melt. Put your hands in it and you won't have sore hands anymore. This is the Bourne Gutter. It is known as the Woe Water. A bourne is a stream associated with chalk downland, which only floods above ground after periods of very heavy rain. It flooded here just before the First World War started, and then was thought of as a bad omen every time it flooded. Impending disaster would happen. There are many woe waters all over the country. So what are these woe waters and woe wells? Well, we have the good omens and the bad omens, but these are the bad ones, and there's so many of them all over the country. The Bourne Gutter we just showed you is between Berkhamsted and Whelpley Hill. There's another one in Berkhamsted High Street on a road called St John's Well Lane, where women were washing their clothes at this woe water. And this was a bad omen. So they had to, although they were poor, they had to throw their clothes away as they could not wear them, as they would be full of bad omens. They also believed, and this goes back in time, that the deities in there were not always good in springs and wells. Even the devil himself could be hiding in there. Also, it could be the very gateway to the underworld. So that's the bad vibes. So what about the good omens? Well, we all love a wishing well. How many of us, including me, has enjoyed throwing a coin and making that wish? Well, that belief is that the well contained good deities and they would hear your wish and grant it. And also, a god himself or herself could have placed this well there for you. When you make this wish, you think that it will come true, and therefore it's positive already. So your mind is positive in this throwing of a coin. But it goes back to 61 AD. It's first mentioned in the works by the writer Pliny the Younger. So it really is very, very old tradition. The Romans believed that if they made a little figure of a person that was ill, marked the ailment on their body, then threw it into one of their spas that they so loved, they would be healed. Also, farmers and all kinds of people would make a little mould of an animal, place it by a well, in a spring, and this would help the harvest and would also protect their herd and keep them healthy. Water is such an important thing. It's our essence of life, and it's one of the elements, a feminine element. We have creatures in the sea, we have creatures in the water, good and bad. So let's look at a few of these lovely water omens. The Chalice Well at Glastonbury is a natural spring water which is said to have healing powers and magical powers. People go there every year and say that they feel much better for visiting there. It is connected to Joseph of Arimathea and of course the legends of Arthur and the Holy Grail, the Knights of the Round Table and the Lady of the Lake. A beautiful place not far from the tour, the famous tour of Glastonbury. We think of Canals as a pleasurable place to be, the slow pace, the tranquility. It wasn't always the case. Canals were very, very busy places. People that worked the canals were really hard-working people and worked 12-hour days, even more. And they lived on the boats and had families, so often they were confined in these small spaces. So there's lots of omens and legends that go with the canals. For instance, they used to tell the children ghostly stories for their safety so they wouldn't drown in the water. Old Peg, they would terrify the kids by saying that she came out and would take them and drag them down into the canal. Also, their horses were their main life. Without their horse, their boat could not be pulled. So when their horse died, the tail of the horse was tied to the rudder post. And you can still see this in museums today, where the horse's tail is on the post. They thought that the spirit of the horse would carry on to their boat and would give them the strength that their horse did in life. All over the canals, there's stories of ghostly things happening. Well, if you can imagine the sort of things that have fallen into the canals, and a lot of these stories come from this, where people have been murdered and fallen into the canal. So next time you're on your pleasure trip along the canal, have a think about these stories. Neptune was the god of fresh water and the sea. He was the Roman god, and he could make raging tides, storms, lightning. The Greek version was Poseidon. He was the protector of the seas, and he was also the protector of the sailors. Sailors would pray to Poseidon for a safe passage. He was second only to Zeus, and Hades being the third, who ruled the underworld. Poseidon was one of the main gods in the Greek mythology. This is the Hippocampi. 2 or 4 of the Hippocampi would pull Neptune or Poseidon's chariots. They had horses' heads and fishes' tails. They were thought to be the adults of seahorses that we know today. They were beautiful, mythical creatures. We all know the river Styx, the river of the unbreakable oaths. The gods took vows by this river, but there are actually 5 rivers in the underworld, and one of them is the river of woe. So woe rivers and waters go back thousands of years. Another one of the creatures, the dolphin. The dolphin through history has been the protector of the sea and has saved so many people from drowning. There's one like this, with the boy on the back of a dolphin. This could be Arion, it could be Taurus. Both were rescued from the sea on the backs of dolphin. Arion was the greatest lyre player in the world and made lots and lots of money, but this was taken from him and he was thrown into the sea, and the dolphin saved him, as did Taurus. He was shipwrecked and he was saved. There's so many stories, but all of them say that the dolphin is of a good omen and should never ever be killed. I have my own hippocampus or hippocampi with a cherub on his back. The stories about these creatures are fascinating. So all these things go back thousands of years, back to the wishing well of today? Why do we still, after all this time, make wishes to gods, goddesses and the supernatural beings? Why? Because it makes us happy, it gives us hope, it makes us feel good and helps us through our day. Let's continue doing this, shall we?